cracks me up. Not really as a situation. It's funny. All these people that take all the protests seriously, with a sign that's like made out of red cardboard, like the worst handwriting in the world.
I'll be sending
If you're really serious about
full records of my night out.
you're walking out the front door and going, oh shit, I need a sign. Yeah, I mean, come on, man.
Ladies and gentlemen,
So serious that it took a whole 2 seconds.
we are live ahead of a historic White House press briefing by none other than Caroline Leavitt. We are back. This should be a good one. There's a lot going on in the White House right now. And Caroline Leavitt is freaking hard to think about. It has been a while. It's been since last Thursday. I was out over the past weekend. Went to the conference Friday. Did a lot this weekend. We had college basketball over the weekend. I'm going to turn these White House reporters down a little bit. How is everyone doing? But there's a lot going on for this White House press briefing. You know, obviously, central point, the Iran war still rages on. Don't know how close you guys have been following the news, but, you know, risks of U.S. having troops on the ground in Iran has been increasing significantly. I think we now have at least one, you know, crew of like 3,000 Marines now stationed in the Middle East. I think it might be 2 now. So Iran war is still kind of heating up. Yeah, that's where I was, Roblox. And then on top of that, the DHS shutdown continues. So a lot of people thought they had hit some funding bill, I think Friday, but that didn't work out, man. No funding reached. So government remains shut down. I think in regards to opening remarks, those are the 2 central pieces we're going to see from Caroline today is Iran and the shutdown with DHS are like the 2 centerpieces. The conference was really awesome. It was a ton of fun. I got to meet a ton of people that I've talked to this past year. Most notably, met Foster in person. Was very cool. Talked to him a ton. So it was a really, really fun conference. And then there were a ton of mentions people there as well. Met some like big mentions traders there. Met Kenobi IRL. Was cool. Yeah, it was very fun. Iran bonded before it started. Yeah, these strikes are getting pretty efficient. You can see like ICE DHS kind of bonded up to 96. Iran already 99 with size. There's 26K bid at 99, which is just crazy, man. TSA up to 93. Epic Fury still kind of cheaper, around 80. No, I don't really do the time markets, Mikkel. They're usually pretty illiquid, but I mean they can be fun during the conference if you have like a good timer set up. But all right, I don't have that many positions on this currently, but it's funny. A few people were tagging me on what their positions were. Yeah. Deep Dish Dave, like everyone that's been messaging me was actually on Save America Y. I'm actually, and look, this is a longer shot at 30 cents. I'm actually like, I like Save Act No, but maybe this is stupid. I mean, I know that they've been hitting it the last like 6 conferences. She said it multiple times, but I took a no position because looking at Trump's messaging this past week, you look at the last few public appearances he's done, he has dodged bringing up Save America Act. Oh, is my audio messed up, or can you hear me? But, yeah, you look at the last few Caro speeches. Yeah, he did. He talked about it last night on the that's the only thing that spooked me a little bit, was that he talked about it last night. But also they were kind of bringing it up in regards to the filibuster. Like they were kind of like they explicitly mentioned Save America Act in the question they asked, but that's the one thing that gives me pause, which is why it's like maybe I don't love the play on no, but the fact they brought it up on Air Force One, it just seems to me like they, I don't know. I don't know if my read is right, in that either they want to just completely pivot off of Save Act, which Trump seemed to be signaling to me the last week in all his rallies. Like Save Act was like priced 80%, or not rallies, but his last public appearances, and he explicitly dodged Save Act last week, and it's no, it's not a hidden truth that like the Save Act has a 0% chance of passing. So the question is if like they're gonna continue to try to push it as like a campaign fight to kind of bring attention off of like the Iran war, all these things, which they very much could do. So like Caro can very easily come out and talk about Save Act today. I think where we're gonna get hurt is. I don't think she's going to say Save Act in the open. I think there's a lot to talk about, and I don't think they're going to be pushing Save Act, right, in regards to this whole filibuster and everything. I don't know. I could easily, again, have a terrible read, so don't just blindly tell me, right? This is something I just was thinking about. So I think if Save Act does hit, I think it's going to be Q&A. So I don't anticipate it hitting out in the open. I think it'll be Q&A. And there's a lot of angles they could hit in a Q&A, but I almost feel like they'd have to like explicitly ask about Save Act for this to come up. Tips are just starting off in mentioned markets. Just do a lot of research, dig into past speeches, learn about, follow the news cycle really closely. Reporters, White House, anyone in the admin, and then start really, really small, because you'll probably, you're not going to be like probably good in the beginning. You see the NFL wants to ban announcer mentions. Yeah, I did. A ton of people were talking about that. To me, that's like a nothing burger. I mean, like what's going to actually come of that? I bet you they've been sending stuff like that for a lot of other things. I don't know. I'm not that worried about that at all. Like, what is the Chip Roy crowd in the House refused to vote anything to end shutdown if it doesn't include Save Act? I think she might get questions about that. Yeah, that's a good point, Vix. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I am stupid on this. Not a lot of people agree with me on Save Act, but so yeah, he said Sleepy Joe this morning on the whole White House app. It's funny. I was on app yes at 65 today, and then I had some people FUD me out of it, and I sold it. I should have held on to it. Because, yeah, White House app, if you guys don't know, I mean, pretty close to a bond at this point. Yeah, Greek, they are becoming more efficient. Do you see Iran at 99? Like, what are you on, Greek? Fair value for tariff? Fair value for tariff would be very, very low. Don't really know. I think this is, what is this, 26.75? The only angle for tariff, to be honest, that maybe isn't priced into this is like they did have that meeting with farmers. Anytime they get on the topic of farmers, tariffs is like a sure thing to come up. So maybe there's an angle where they could talk about farmers and tariff could come in. What are you on here, Greek? I'm curious. Nothing yet. I was looking at it now, but I don't like anything, so I'll wait for live. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. I am prepared to burn a ton of money. I know, Vix. It is very true that mentions are becoming more efficient. People are freaking bonding stuff like super high. Like the idea of having a strike pre-bonded at 99 for 90K volume is so crazy. Agitator, yeah, I do have a small position on Agitator as like a longer shot thing, and my rationale there is when they had the Minneapolis protests, the talking point that the Republicans used was agitator. They used it during that whole Minneapolis thing. Almost every speech she would say paid agitator, professional agitator. So my thought process is with the No Kings protest yesterday, maybe there's an angle she gets a question on it, and she'll either bring up something related to protests or even so far as to say professional agitator on, the No Kings protest. Think a reporter bring up Trump's Cuba comments from last week. Seemed to get some news coverage. Yeah, I mean, Cuba at 50-50 honestly is pretty interesting. Because I feel like stuff is going down in Cuba. It was priced really high earlier, so I didn't end up picking any up. But now it's actually getting some liquidity. Fake news in China. China, I lean towards no. The only reason China hit last time was because of the Trump visit. They already talked about it last time. So I don't know if I'd expect them to, there's not really any reason for them to bring up China today, but obviously China's one of those things that like there's a whole lot of things that they can ask that would cause her to just blurt China out related to something, But I think like if you can get no China close to what is it, maybe 60, it's a good buy. I mean, what is it at now? Yeah, it's about 40, 60. It's probably pretty good on the no at 60, I would think. I mean, let me see. Yeah, I'll put some up, honestly, at 60. Pope Catholic's really funny. It'd be really funny if Trump talks about the Pope. Do I have a position on length? No, I don't. I don't really do those markets. They're usually pretty illiquid, but I'm glad they added them back. Yeah, I'm only really positioned on like longer shots today, so we'll probably lose here. It never feels good going into a speech with like only long shots, really, because then, I'm just prepared to probably lose $500. Ukraine, yes, and a question. I was on Ukraine Why last week, Greek. I don't know why, but when she talks about other wars, she's been dodging Ukraine. But you know what? At 28.30, damn, that's actually not bad at all, though. Wow. Yeah, Ukraine sub 30 is like pretty interesting. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to buy some. Because with Ukraine, Greek, you also have the talking point of just that Biden gave away all this money to Ukraine, and they use that as an attack point to justify this Iran war. All right, you want some ASMR, Jinxie? Is that what is coming up? Yeah, Iran is already bonded. Look at this. There is $76,000 on Yes Iran at 99. That is so insane. Before the speech has already happened. What's funny though is I can't even knock it. Like fair value of Iran is probably north of 99, so it's actually probably a good buy. I know how crazy that probably sounds because it seems like it's always bad to buy something at 99, but I mean, she's gonna say Iran. There's no world she doesn't say Iran. SCOTUS will hear arguments on Wednesday on birthright citizenship. You think she'll get asked about that? I mean, Supreme Court at 25 is always interesting. My thought process, Greek, honestly, is like, with this stuff getting more efficient, people usually are like bonding no's on a lot of things. So I just try to get, like find unique angles, I guess, to go against them maybe. Like, agitator Y at 16 cents. Like, is 16 really fair value? Probably closer to at least 20. I don't know. But it's getting tough in mentions. How long will the speech go? I have no freaking idea. Usually these things are like maybe 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes usually. Probably fair. She's always delayed like she is today. But yeah, Ukraine knows kind of interesting. It's interesting how much of a premium Russian with oil. Yeah, Russian oil makes a lot of sense. That's why Russia is trading at such a premium to Ukraine. Honestly, maybe it's still a good Y at 58. I guess it only hit one time last speech. But we'll see. People are treating it like an absolute sure thing that she's going to come out and talk about the White House app right in the beginning. So if she somehow manages to skip over that, that'd be interesting. Russia's good because the U.S. Yeah, exactly. Streamflow, the Russian oils, like Cuba down to 49. I don't know. It's kind of dependent on the Cuba question, right? She's probably not going to talk Cuba in remarks, but. Yeah, Russian is interesting. Actually, feels pretty good at 58. Maybe. Caro just tweeted stuff on crime too. No way she says application instead of app, you know. Everyone, even though they're like older, it's for sure going to be application. I am curious on how low is Border getting. Border's 64. Like, I think there's a good chance they still talk about the border. Two-minute warning. Russia supposedly gave Iran coordinates for planes at a Saudi base, which was then hit by drones. Def a Q&A on that. Yeah, interesting. Going in on Rubio for election winner in 2028? I think you're a little late on that, to be honest. Like, the trade on Rubio was, like, a few weeks ago. He's now, like, at kind of mass appeal, right? Because, like, everyone's talking about Rubio. Is White House stream up, by the way?
Today I'm pleased.
Oh, shoot, sorry. Oh, yeah, White House stream is up. Let me pull up White House. Give me a sec, guys. But yeah, I think you kind of missed the Rubio trade. I think it's a little late, to be honest. All right. Let's get this White House up. Okay. White House stream is live. Nice. I think I'm pretty balanced in the middle here. All right, I gotta get ready to pull my bids. What's your ID identification? ID is gonna come up in relation to Save Act, so that's kind of the angle. But I think ID should trade at a premium to Save Act. You think he will be crowned by Trump eventually? I just don't think Republicans really can win in 2028. But look, it's so far out that who the hell knows, right? It's like, you know, midterms could like easily go bad, you know, for like the Republicans could rule and midterms easily do bad. There's just like so many news cycles that are going to happen. So no one really knows. But right now, obviously, probably doesn't feel that good for Republicans to win the presidency. But obviously, it's just midterms now. It's probably going to sway back the other way once Democrats control the House. I wonder if Caro could say any new information today, too. Conference was sick, JCD. It was a ton of fun. I got to meet like ton of traders IRL that I'd like talked to a bunch this past year. So it was a lot of fun. 408K volume. Yeah, and that's just the beginning. This will probably close above 1 mil. A lot of bonding volume too. So I think this one will be like pretty big. Israel's kind of jumped up to 70. All right, here she comes.
Good
Let's
afternoon,
go,
everyone.
Carol.
Could you hear our amen in there? We just said a little loud prayer.
Oh, amen.
In this Holy Week, President Trump and the First Lady are
Talking
joining
about
in prayer
Easter.
with Christians celebrating
Christians,
the
not
resurrection of our Lord
Catholic.
and Savior, Jesus Christ. On Wednesday, the President will host an Easter lunch in the East Room with faith leaders across the country to celebrate Holy Week. With respect to the ongoing major combat operations in Iran, Operation Epic Fury
Epic
is
Fury,
moving ahead
boom, right off the bat.
successfully and
Had some
according
Epic
to
Fury.
plan. With each passing day, the United States military is increasing its advantage over the terrorist Iranian regime. More than 11,000 enemy targets have been struck to date, each strike further crippling the regime's offensive and defensive capabilities and creating more leverage for the United States and our allies. Compared to the start of the operation, Iran's ballistic missile and drone attacks are down by roughly 90%. The United States is also decimating the Iranian regime's navy. We have destroyed more than 150 of their naval vessels so far, including 92% of their largest vessels. The Iranian Navy has no vessels operating in major regional waterways and no ability to project naval power, which is why they've been assessed as combat ineffective.
Combat
Our military
ineffective.
continues to obliterate Iran's defense industrial
Obliterate.
base, with nearly 70% of their missile, drone, and naval production facilities and shipyards damaged or destroyed thus far, significantly reducing their ability to pose future threats in the region. U.S. and Israeli joint forces control the skies and have asserted air dominance
Oh my
over
God, someone
Iran,
bonded Israel on
completing more than
Israeli. Holy shit. I missed the click.
11,000 successful combat flights thus far. The trend remains clear. The United States is conducting more intense,
Did someone
targeted
really
strikes with
bond that?
devastating combat power with each passing day to destroy the threat posed by the Iranian terrorist regime, as President
Wow.
Trump sought out to do a month ago. It's no surprise that we are seeing the remaining elements of the regime become increasingly eager to end the destruction and come to the negotiating table
Negotiating?
while they still can.
Not negotiating.
Despite all of the public posturing
Wow.
you hear
People
from the
bonded on
regime
negotiating.
and false reporting, talks are continuing and going well. What is said publicly is of
Holy
course
cow.
much different than what's being communicated to us privately. As a result, President Trump issued a 10-day pause to postpone planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure. This remains a truly once-in-a-generation opportunity for the regime to make a good deal with the United States, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and stop acting as the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. If the Iranians reject this golden opportunity, the greatest military in the history of the world continues to stand
You know, he
by to
rebuilt the
provide
military in
President
his
Trump
first
with
term.
every option available to ensure this regime continues to pay a grave price. One way or another, Iran will no longer have the credible ability to threaten the United States or our allies, which is, of course, the overall objective and mission the president set out when he launched Operation Epic Fury. Unfortunately, even as President Trump is working hard every single day to protect
Oh,
the
here
United
comes
States
shutdown
from foreign
pivot.
enemies, Democrats on Capitol Hill have failed to do the same here at home by keeping the Department of Homeland Security unfunded. Over the
Unfunded.
past 6 weeks, Democrats in Congress have pushed our air travel system to its breaking point and inflicted massive pain on Americans with their reckless political games. 500 TSA officers quit their
TSA?
jobs. Thousands more were calling out sick at record rates due to the lack of pay. This resulted in security wait times exceeding 3 hours at major airports across the country, creating nightmares for millions
So far,
of
she's
Americans.
dodged shutdown.
Overall
Interesting.
morale
Just
among
used
TSA staff
unfunded.
plummeted as well. All of this creating an unacceptable heightened security risk. Because of the Democrats' unwillingness to do their basic job of funding DHS, President Trump determined that these
DHS.
circumstances constituted an emergency, compromising American security. That's why last week he accordingly signed a presidential memorandum directing the Secretary of Homeland Security to to work with the director of the Office of Management and Budget here at the White House to use those funds with a reasonable and logical nexus to TSA operations to provide TSA employees.
App has tanked Phantom because it's only going to hit in the open when they talk about White House app.
Democrat-led DHS shutdown.
Let's see if she
This
pivots
bold
back
and
to it.
necessary action
Yeah, it
by
is getting
President Trump
crazy
will
cheap.
ensure
Holy.
our TSA workers receive their hard-earned paychecks. It should not have come to
I
this
still
point,
think she's
but
going to talk
President
about
Trump
the
will
White
always
House
do
app,
what's
though.
right by the
I
American
might buy
people,
some.
and he found a way to do that, to get TSA paid. Ensuring that these federal workers who perform critical public safety
Let's see.
responsibilities
But I'm going
feed their
to
families,
wait, see
pay
what
their
she
rent, and
pivots
show up
to.
to work is something the president was honored to do. But this moment should be an eye-opening one for the American people.
I'm
Let's
surprised it
be
got all the way
clear
up to
about what is
85 for a
happening.
while. Holy shit.
Democrat members of Congress are more than happy to put your safety at risk because they oppose the president's administration.
Well, they're just pricing it 100% to be in the open. So if she doesn't say it in the opening remarks,
Democrats refuse to fund
people
ICE
are
because
like
they want millions
trying
and
to buy
millions of
nose.
illegal aliens to pour into the country just like they were under the Biden
Oh, this is a
administration.
border
They
angle.
want murderers and rapists and thugs to remain in your communities rather than be removed by ICE and Border Patrol agents.
Border Patrol,
The
there it is.
Democrats created this mess. They are the reason for long lines at airports and tens of thousands of employees going without pay. Once again, President Trump is cleaning up their mess because he cares more about the American people than destructive, petty, partisan politics. With that, I will take your questions today. Here on our new media seat, we have Wid Lyman. Thank you for being here.
Unless he asks about the app, it's not coming.
Thank you. Happy Easter.
Thank you. You as well.
Questions for you. Thank you. There are some concerns the administration is starting to change its position on deportations.
All right,
enforcement,
app is dead.
possibly
Holy
asylum
shit.
policies.
She didn't
Would you say to
say
Americans that are
app.
somewhat concerned that the shift has happened.
Crazy.
Sure. Well, while there has, of course, been a change in leadership at the Department of Homeland Security with former Senator, now Secretary Mullen, joining the president's cabinet, I can assure the American people there
No
is
one's
not
gonna
been a
ask
change in
about the
policy.
app.
It has always been the policy
Like,
of this
this
president
is,
and this administration to deport the worst.
Yeah,
of the
app is
worst
dead.
illegal alien
That's
criminals from
crazy.
our communities. That's something
How do they
Secretary
not
Mullen
talk about it?
remains wholeheartedly committed
Very
to doing.
odd.
And it's something that is overwhelmingly popular with the American people. And it's something that is necessary to protect our homeland and to prevent deaths of Americans in our country. Just last week, Sheridan Gorman, a young woman in Chicago, was shot and killed on the street walking with her friends outside of her university by a illegal alien from Venezuela who had no right to be here in the first place. And it's despicable that Democrats are currently defunding the department that's responsible for removing illegal aliens like that. And I would also add it's despicable that the lack of coverage of this young woman's case, of her life, and the way that it was tragically cut short.
So, no
I
talk
saw
on
a
the No
survey
Kings
over the weekend
protest,
that
by
I'd
the
like
way.
to bring to all of your attention. This is the media coverage of the case of Sheridan Gorman. You have ABC News has spent 1 minute and 19 seconds between 2 days when this case was first alerted. You have CBS 2 minutes and 1 second. You have NBC 23 seconds spent on the life of a young,
23
beautiful
seconds,
American
ABC.
woman
What do you have to say
whose
to
life
yourself?
was taken short by an illegal alien who should have never been here in the first place when we are in the middle of a battle on Capitol Hill with a major political party, the Democrat Party, who wants to defund the agency that is responsible for protecting Americans. I think her life was worth more than 23 seconds on cable television, and I think the people in this room have a responsibility to report on cases like this because it just exemplifies why the president believes so strongly in deporting illegal aliens from our communities. And thank you for the question.
Wait, Rigatoni posted app why?
Two questions, one on Iran and one on the.
I love Rigatoni, man. Oh, I should have seen it. I should have been buying now at 15.
Talking to a new or
You gotta have Rigatoni on notifications.
How confident
He moves
are you
markets.
that they are legitimate and have enough grip on power? Marco Rubio.
All right, so we dodged Save Act in the open.
Whether they will be in power,
Let's
but
hope
are you also
she doesn't get a
talking to
question
other
on
factions?
Save
The
Act
president's trying to
or
make a deal.
on
How do you ensure that you're making a deal
the,
with people who can actually
like,
implement?
funding bills, I guess.
Well, that's part of the ongoing process that's taking place and the ongoing negotiations. Of course, anything that they say to us
Negotiation
privately
right there.
will be tested, and we will ensure that they are being held accountable to their word. And if they are not, the president has laid out the military consequences that the Iranian regime will see if they don't hold true to the words that we are hearing privately behind the scenes. When the president says more reasonable, again, these folks are appearing more reasonable behind the scenes privately in these conversations than perhaps some of the previous leaders who are now no longer on planet Earth because they lied to the United States and they strung us along in negotiations, and that was unacceptable to the president, which is why many of the previous leaders were killed.
It could be good, Avocado. I mean, she's gonna get questions on the Hormuz, the tankers, oil for sure.
And to come to
So
a deal with this president.
it's just that she's gonna say
administration,
Hormuz
or again,
explicitly. Trump's definitely been saying
they
Hormuz
will,
way more.
see the grave consequences of the United States Armed Forces, which they are continuing to see every day throughout this operation.
On DHS, how long can the administration keep paying TSA without action from Congress? And not to be hyperbolic, but given the airports were really the pain point that was pushing both sides to talk to each other. I mean, do you see a way for DHS to
Oh,
reopen?
no,
Is it
this
possible
is-
this keeps going through the midterms?
We gotta
Well,
keep
we certainly
dodging
hope
SAVE
so. I
Act.
mean, of course, the president just can't keep signing presidential memorandums and proclamations every time Congress fails to do its job, and every time Democrats are holding our entire country hostage, picking and choosing which programs and agencies they want to fund just because they don't like this administration's policies. That's not how it's supposed to work. They voted 7 times against funding DHS over partisan and political reasons. And so, again, the president has stepped in to do the right thing at this moment in time, but the president is also encouraging Congress to come back to Washington to permanently
Wow,
fix this
fraud
problem
has
and
tanked,
to
by the way.
fund and reopen
Why
the
was
Department of Homeland
fraud
Security entirely.
at 80?
Stephen.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions, one on TSA, one on Iran. On TSA, for ordinary Americans watching the briefing, how long until everything goes back to normal at airports after the president's action? And then on Iran, on the time frame, President Trump initially said about 4 weeks. Secretary of State Rubio on Friday reportedly said it might be another 2 to 4. Is 2 to 4 the current ballpark that the administration is thinking?
With respect to the timeline, again, the President, Commander-in-Chief, the Pentagon has always stated 4 to 6 weeks estimated timeline for Operation Epic Fury. We're on day 30 today, so again, you do the math on how much longer the Pentagon needs to fully achieve the objectives of
You're on
Operation Epic
Israel,
Fury,
why?
which I will reiterate: destroy the Iranian Navy, destroy their ballistic missiles, dismantle their missile and drone production infrastructure, significantly weaken their proxies throughout the course of this operation, and then, of course, preventing Iran from ever obtaining a
nuclear weapon.
To your first question, Stephen, about TSA and airports, nothing will be truly normal again until Democrats do the right thing to fund this agency fully. Again, the president has stepped in the meantime to do what's right to end this crisis that we've had at air travel and at airports across the country in the meantime. But again, Congress needs to come back. Democrats need to fund the Department of Homeland Security so we can formally and fully get these great employees paid long into the future.
Played.
Jonathan?
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions regarding the financial costs of the war. Back during the Persian Gulf War, 1990, 1991, Arab countries.
Dang, dude,
paid the
Ukraine is
vast
so
majority of the cost of
China,
the
why
war.
becomes interesting given
Kuwait,
rescheduled meeting with
Saudi
Zedi to
Arabia,
Iran?
UAE. Who's paying
Resolve.
for the cost of this war? Will those Arab
But
countries
she
step up?
she talked about it last
That-
meeting.
Well, I think it's something the president would be
You think
quite
they're going to ask
interested
her,
in
will
calling
you
them to do. I won't
reschedule
get ahead
the China visit because of the war? Is
of him
that
on
that's the question?
But certainly
Okay,
it's an idea
interesting.
that I know that he has, and something that I think you'll hear more from him on.
I think that's actually maybe
the
fair.
cost of diesel is averaging at $5.38 a gallon right now.
Diesel question.
What's the message from the Trump administration to truck drivers who are dealing with this high fuel costs right now?
Again, we understand, we hear you, we see you. We are fully tracking this short-term fluctuation in oil and in diesel
Short-term.
prices. And that's why the president and the
short-term,
administration
everybody.
have continually announced robust actions to provide stability in the global energy market. As you know, political risk insurance, one of those actions, allowing countries to purchase sanctioned oil just to increase the supply in the
Sanctioned
meantime.
oil, not sanctioned
we were
Russian
forced to
oil.
release
Interesting.
400 billion barrels of oil and refined products as well.
Wow. She says
issued
sanctioned
the
oil, not
Jones
sanctioned
Act
Russian
waiver.
oil.
All of this has
Interesting
with
dodge.
the goal of increasing supply to create stabilization in the market in the meantime. But the overall message, as we've repeatedly stated, is again, these are short-term
Short-term.
and short-term price fluctuations for the long-term benefit of
The
ending
Russia
threat that
angle,
Iran poses.
avocado, is Russian oil. Russian
The
oil
United States of
tankers,
America,
release
our
of Russia.
troops, and our
Russian
allies
is
in the
way more
region,
likely than
in ensuring
Ukraine.
that this regime can no
But
longer control
Ukraine
the
still
world,
has an angle
free
just
flow
'cause
of
we have an
energy
ongoing
through
war.
which is something the
Hormuz
administration
right there.
continues to tackle
Wow.
day by day
There's
as well.
Hormuz.
Just 2 questions.
Which Jennifer?
I'll go to both of them.
Go ahead. So two questions. One on China and one on Iran. On
Oh, China.
Ahead of the president's trip to Beijing, will there be a working level meeting with Secretary Bessent, Jameson Greer, et cetera, and when will that be?
I do expect cabinet officials to travel to China ahead of time. I don't have a readout on their schedules for you, but this is something we typically do with international travel, as you know. So
Wow.
the Treasury
Good
Department
angle,
and
Resolve.
myself, and we'll get you that answer.
But
I do
that wasn't
expect
even
them to
asking about. That was
move
just such a weird question
And
on.
on Iran.
But good
if Iran
move.
is
I lost
kind
on
of
China. I was on
cherry-picking
China.
what
No.
Tankers get to go through the strait now, and
But I'm salty
contemplating
about that.
Big tolls on those tankers. Is that consistent, or how is that consistent, really, with the president's message about really wanting the strait to be fully open? Does the administration support a regime or system where Iran is effectively charging tolls on these vessels to access?
That's not something we support, and I would reject that they are cherry picking. In fact, as you know, these tankers that are moving through, the 10 that were previously announced, and now
Yeah.
the 20. The
That was
announcement
smart in
of 20
retrospect, I
additional
guess.
Tankers, which we expect to see over the
Honestly,
coming
with the
days,
China visit,
are a
yeah, that's
result
probably
of the
smart.
direct
I probably was
and
stupid being on
indirect
no.
talks that are taking place between the United States
I just
and Iran. So you wouldn't
thought
have seen those
since
tankers
she already
if
talked
not
about
for
it
the
last
president's
week
diplomacy
and
his
it's so
team
far out, I
engaging
don't
on
know,
this
maybe they
matter,
wouldn't
which
ask
we
about it,
expect
but clearly wrong.
that compliance moving forward, and it's again something that we're working on very closely. Sure. And behind the mic in the back right there, you put up your hand very excitingly. Go ahead.
Hannah from News Nation.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking my question. I have two for you real quick. There are reports that Republicans are weighing cuts to healthcare in order to make way for that $200 billion.
Holy
for
healthcare
Pentagon
question.
Operation Epic Fury. Is that a trade-off that President Trump supports?
I've seen these reports. I haven't spoken to the president about it, nor have I heard this being discussed in any high-level meetings here at the White House. I don't want to.
Yes, Resolve. Let's get drinks soon.
Because I just
Is she
haven't heard that
dodging
being
healthcare, by
discussed
the
in
way?
West Wing.
And then secondly,
Healthcare
I know
dodge.
President Trump says we're ahead of schedule in achieving his military objectives in Iraq.
Wow.
He laid out that 4 to 6 week timetable for this conflict.
Crazy
and we're now
weave.
within week 5. So how do you square kind of those two?
Well, 4 to 6 weeks estimated timeline. Again, you just said we're on day 30 of the operation. I just provided you with some of the updates from the Pentagon directly in achieving the objectives, and the military has been enormously successful. I think we should all be very proud of our armed forces for what they have done over the past 30 days. The mission will continue until the objectives are achieved, and that 4 to 6 week timeline does remain right now.
Oh,
I
is
don't
my
have
breathing
any
super
updates for you on
loud
that.
still?
Jake?
Yeah, like other.
My
there's one
ASMR
on Tuesday,
breathing.
one on Iran. On Iran, I know that it's tough to engage in hypotheticals.
All right, I'm gonna hold my breath during the
But I feel
stream.
like this is one that you could engage in if the president does seek.
Probably not. But
Well,
let's
we'll
see.
see. If the president does seek, or the United States seeks a ground war, does he intend to get congressional authorization of that march?
Look, the president has been asked about boots on the ground or alleged ground operations various times.
Oh,
He's
ground
obviously
operations
declined
question.
to rule them out. It's the Pentagon's job to provide maximum optionality to the president. It does not mean he's made a decision, nor would he ever notify the media of such decision as not to tip off our enemy. With respect
You
to
like it, Hazy,
abiding
I
by
know you do.
Congress and the rule of law, that's something the administration will, of course, always do. And it's something that we have great respect for Congress. The president does with military operations. In fact, prior to the launch of Operation Epic Fury, as you know, the administration gave a courtesy notice to Congress in the Gang of Eight, and top-level administration officials and cabinet secretaries have gone to Congress multiple times over the past 30 days to provide those courtesy briefings to Congress when requested.
TSA quickly. I've been asked by multiple Trump supporters that have said, given the fact that the president on that Friday gave that memorandum informing DHS to pay TSA workers, I know there's a lot of negotiations involved in a shutdown of this size. Why did the president not sooner issue that payment to TSA workers?
Well, it's because of the Democrats voting 7 times against reopening the Department of Homeland Security.
All right,
that
I'm
we
moving
came
my
to a
mic
place
up.
Of an existential crisis. I mean, you saw the lines.
Because it just
at
catches
various
everything. I'm sorry for those of you
major
who like
airports
hearing
across
my
the
breath.
country, American travelers really paying the price for Democrats' partisan
go.
games. And so the president worked with his legal team here at the White House and the Office of Management and Budget to find a solution to take care of the emergency that we were seeing in air travel across the country. And it's because of the president that TSA agents are being paid. But again, he's calling on Congress to do the right thing, to come back to Washington, and to fund and reopen the Department of Homeland Security fully.
There we go. Can you guys hear me now?
Sure.
Hi, Lindsay
Lindsay Ellis from the Wall Street Journal. I'm trying to square the 4 objectives laid out by the administration with
How's the
goal
audio
of
now?
reopening
Is good?
fully the Strait of Hormuz. Would President Trump declare victory and wind down military
Yeah, breath
operations
control
if
is
the
in
4 objectives
shambles.
are met, but still passage remains quite slow through the strait?
Look, as I've said repeatedly and as the president has laid out, the objectives of Operation Epic Fury are as follows: destroying the Iranian Navy, destroying their ballistic missiles, dismantling their defense industrial infrastructure that produces those weapons that have long threatened the United States and our allies, and then of course preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. The full reopening of the strait is something the administration is working towards, but the core objectives of the operation have been clearly defined for the American people by the United States and our
The president posted this morning about his threats that on leaving Iran. He said we might be blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Hard Island, and possibly
Pretty
all
crazy he said
desalinization plants. Under
desalinization.
international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett, and you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear. To try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the
So this will go till at least 2 p.m.
Which of those objectives would destroying a desalinization plant most help?
Haley, go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. I want to follow up on Iran.
She began 22 minutes ago.
That the Iranians are in contact
Right around
with
like
are
122.
reasonable this time around in discussions. What specifically are you hearing that is leading you to that conclusion, and how are you defining what's reasonable versus unreasonable in that regard?
I'm not going to detail the private and sensitive conversations that are taking place between the United States and Iran right now.
But generally speaking,
the president gave you the answer. What we're hearing from them is more reasonable. They have agreed to some of the points the United States laid out, as the president said last night, aboard Air Force One. But again, as for the specifics, as these negotiations are ongoing, we're not going to broadcast them to the world unless the president chooses to do so, which he has the full right to do as the leader of the free world.
Caroline.
On Cuba, the president threatened.
Oh, Cuba question. This is
to
Cuba.
Send oil to Cuba, but now U.S. is letting this Russian tanker to Cuba. Is this a policy change,
And
or
Russia.
is he willing to let more tankers into Cuba now?
This is not a policy change. There has not been a formal change in sanction policy. As the president said last night, we allowed this ship to reach Cuba in order to provide
Cuba.
humanitarian
There it
needs
is.
to the Cuban
That's
people.
the Cuba
These
angle,
decisions
guys.
are being made on a
Dang, man, we
case-by-case
should have been on.
basis.
I mean, you
As
can't
the
really know with
administration
Q&A,
has said,
but
Cuba's non-functional economy cannot be fixed unless they undergo dramatic
Cuba Y at
political
50 was
and
pretty
leadership
good.
change.
Damn.
But there has been no formal change.
But we're not
sanction policy.
results
So
oriented.
you
We're
could
process
expect
oriented.
more tankers to go to Cuba.
Yeah, these decisions are being made on a case-by-case basis right now.
She is weaving Russian though. That's crazy.
Thanks, Caroline. You addressed this a little bit in the opening, but just to follow up, because Americans are sort of seeing these conflicting messages between the United States and Iran. I know the president insists that negotiations are underway. As you just mentioned, he's also said that Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points. We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take an Iranian regime that has repeatedly lied about our country, about our values, about everyone in this room, frankly, for nearly 5 decades. So I think the American public are smart enough to understand that.
Just to follow up on the
She's not calling it a stupid question.
you
Garrow's
laid them out, but I know the
removed that
president
from
has
her
set a deadline
dictionary.
for April 6th in just 1 week. What does the president need to see to not move forward with those strikes by April 6th?
Well, I think he said it in his Truth Social post this morning. He wants to see a deal over the next 10 days. That timeline is waning, several days left, and we'll see. I won't get ahead of it. We'll see what happens in the end of the 10-day period.
Caroline, thank you. one on Iran, one on the shutdown. The president continues to say the U.S. is in conversations with a more reasonable regime, but there are now hundreds of U.S.
Oh, you actually went for a
operations
stupid
forces,
question.
including Navy SEALs and Army Rangers in the Middle East, as well as.
I've never seen Stupid Question hit live.
So is he trying
I
to
wait
end
every day hoping.
or intensify the conflict?
The president is focused on achieving the objectives of Operation Epic Fury. With respect to forces that are on the ground in the Middle East, it's the job of the Pentagon to create maximum optionality for the commander-in-chief. It does not mean the president has made any additional decisions. Again, he remains focused on ensuring that the Pentagon continues to achieve the objectives of the operation that was launched 30 days ago, and we're well on our way to doing that.
So if an American sitting at home hearing him say, I want to talk, but I keep seeing them send troops to that region, what are they to make of what's going on?
There's two tracks here. The president has always said that diplomacy is his number one option and priority. Again, he tried earnestly, in good faith, to engage in diplomacy with the Iranian regime prior to this operation being launched in the first place. He wanted to strike a deal, and he sent
I think we have
his
till
top
at least
negotiators
2
to do
p.m.
So they spent extensive amount of time and effort.
Yeah, that's probably a
trying to
good
strike
buy,
a deal,
Avocado.
and
But granted, it was a
unfortunately,
short
the
open, so
previous
maybe
regime, again,
somewhat a shorter Q&A.
Many of those leaders no longer with us here on Earth because they faced the consequences of the United States military. So if there's ever a chance for a deal, again, the president is open to listening, but it does not deter him from focusing on the military objectives that he set out 30 days ago and that our military is continuing to achieve day by day.
On the shutdown, he signed the national emergency order last Thursday, making sure TSA officers will be paid. There's still other civilian DHS employees, however, who are not being paid.
Yes.
Will he sign something similar to ensure they also get paid?
Look, the president will always look into ways that we can make sure that the American people are being taken care of and doing what's
You think
right
5
by the
minutes,
American
Mark
people.
Korshner?
But again, it's ridiculous that the president even has to go to the length of working with the legal team and the Office of Management and Budget to identify these funds. It is the job of Congress to
That seems
fund
kinda
these
early.
agencies. And Democrats in Congress have voted 7 times against funding the Department of Homeland Security. Congress should come back.
Oh, you're responding then.
And they should get it done. The president, again, made the decision to prevent this existential crisis we were seeing at our nation's airports across the country. That was only going to get worse, and that's why he wants Congress to do his job.
Thank you, Caroline. Since you mentioned
I'll go to you as well.
Since you mentioned Easter and prayers, I wanted to ask you about something the Pope said yesterday.
Oh, Pope
so
question.
You said yesterday, and I quote him.
I
God
feel like
does
she's
not
not
listen
gonna
to the
say
prayer
Pope
of
in
those
this.
who wage war. Can you comment on that?
I think our nation was a nation founded 250 years ago almost on
250.
Judeo-Christian values, and we've seen presidents.
She's
we've
not
seen,
gonna say it. There's no
the
way.
leaders of the Department of War, and we've seen our troops go to prayer during the most turbulent times in our nation's history. And I don't think there's anything wrong with our military leaders or with the president calling on the American people to pray for our service members and those who are serving our country overseas. In fact, I think it's a very noble thing to do. And if you talk to many service members, they will tell you they appreciate the prayers and support from the Commander-in-Chief and from his cabinet.
Caroline, thank you. President Trump told
Yeah,
the New York Post
there's
that
no
a
way.
response is coming
I knew
shortly
she
to
would
Tehran attacking Israel's
dodge it.
largest oil
Israel
refinery.
question.
Is there a timeline on that? Is that tied to the success or not?
Or she's gonna say no timeline. She's not gonna answer this. Yeah, I knew it. Oh, yeah.
Still consider the IRGC in control of Iran.
Well, look, as Secretary Rubio said today, the leadership is very fragmented.
She does not answer stuff ever on like military plans or whatever.
Neutered their intercommunication systems, and that's part of this process of diplomacy. Have to continue figuring out exactly who's in charge. I know they appointed a new Ayatollah, haven't seen or heard much from him, and so that's part of this diplomatic process that's underway right now. I'll take a few more.
A few more.
Thank you. You listed the described humanitarian reasons for allowing that oil tanker to reach Cuba. Just to clarify, why was the administration okay with Russia sending that oil to Cuba and not other nations?
Oh, here's a Russian
look, again,
angle.
this was a decision. It'll continue to be made on a case-by-case basis for humanitarian reasons or otherwise, but there's been no firm change in our sanctions policy.
President Sheinbaum of Mexico also said that Mexico
Big dodge.
explore in different ways to restart some of those shipments to Cuba. Is the administration okay with that at this time?
Again, there's been no change in our sanction policy. We still reserve the right to seize vessels if
She's
it's legally
getting close to wrapping,
applicable,
guys.
that are headed towards Cuba and that violate the United States sanction policy. But of course, the president and the administration also reserve the right.
Oh, picking up the
to waive
papers,
those,
picking up the papers.
seizures on a case-by-case basis.
And to clarify, just any more Russian oil tankers going to be allowed to reach Cuba at this time? I know
Again-
you said case by case, but for the case of Russia, is it pretty much green light right now?
No, that's not what I said. It's a case-by-case basis. Sure, Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, wait.
Switching topics, the president has always attended CPAC. He did not this year.
Oh,
Why did he
CPAC.
not attend, and does he believe CPAC is becoming less relevant?
No, I don't think he believes that at all. In fact, he loves CPAC and has a very good relationship with the great people who run it, Mercedes and Matt Schlapp. It was just simply for scheduling purposes this year, with it being in
Man,
Texas.
she did the
It was
dodge,
best for the
picking up her
president's schedule,
papers.
and what he has on his plate right now not to go.
All right, she's still here. She's still here.
Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. If and when
Michael.
a deal is finalized with Iran, how does the U.S. provide protection to who it's negotiating with to ensure that they can carry out the president's peace plan?
Again, that's something I'm sure our national security team is discussing. I don't have
Oh.
anything for you on that today.
On the ballroom, can you tell us more
Oh,
about
ballroom?
this massive military complex underneath the president's new ballroom?
Oh, stupid question,
I cannot
maybe?
tell you more about that,
Yeah.
actually, as a matter of fact. However, the military is making some upgrades to their facilities here at the White House, and I'm not privy to provide any more details on that at this time. Go ahead.
Oh man,
Reagan.
she's rapid firing.
Question on the Middle East and then question on Antifa.
Antifa.
Netanyahu said Sunday that
Oh my God.
he's
Agitator and protester.
to hold services for Palm
Come on. Hit agitator. Hit agitator here. Antifa question. This is preordained. Let's get an agitator here. Oh, also, Israel.
call over to Israeli officials to assist the cardinal.
Another
Yes,
Israel
I
question.
did speak with Secretary Rubio this morning, and we did express our concerns with Israel. With respect to
Israel.
these holy
Boom. I got
sites.
400 Israel
We
20.
want
Okay.
worshipers to be able to
Let's get
access these holy
agitator.
sites. Of course, safety is a top
Let's get
priority,
agitator
but we
and
understand
protester
Israel is
home.
working on those security measures to reopen
What
the
is this-
sites, throughout Holy Week.
what is
and
this
that's
question
something
gonna
that
be?
we're appreciative of.
Antifa question. Come on.
Antifa. In Texas, 9 people have been
Oh my
convicted
gosh.
by a federal jury on domestic terrorist charges.
Let's go agitator and protest.
The White House has
Let's see it.
previously indicated that you guys are
Let's bring it home.
investigating Antifa, who's funding them, who's leading them. Can you provide
These are
an
paid
update
agitators. Antifa are professional paid agitators. Come on,
Do you
say
think
it.
We're going to see more charges against people
Let's
connected
go.
to Antifa.
Well, I do know that there was an entire task force that was set up, an interagency task force, to focus on the threat of Antifa, which, as you know, Reagan, this president declared a domestic terrorist organization, rightfully.
Come on.
And we will continue to look into it.
Oh,
I don't
she's
have
not
any
gonna
updates on
say
those
it.
specific investigations, but I'd be happy to have my team
Oh,
get
it's
those over
dead.
to you today, as this continues to be of the utmost
dead.
importance to the president and his
Oh,
domestic
that was our
policy
angle.
agenda.
I feel good buying then because at least question came up.
On one question on landmines. There's
What
been
the
some
hell?
reporting that
She's staying so much longer. She's going
landmines
rapid
on
fire
the
on all
ground
these
in
last
Iran.
questions. Oh, that Antifa question was so our single angle to get an agitator home.
I don't have any comment on that report today.
Caroline, whether they're being used at all.
I don't have any comment on that.
Caroline.
On DHS, you said that the president is encouraging Congress to come back to DC.
Dude,
You said
she's
yourself.
taking
How
rapid
has he
fire.
done that? Has he told leadership that they should cancel recess and come back?
He said it repeatedly. I think you recall. He said that he'll host a big Easter dinner here at the White House if Congress will come back and fight the Democrats on
All right,
this
let's
issue, which we
call
should do.
this.
Because again, the Democrat Party is in the wrong here. They have voted 7 times against
right.
funding the Department of Homeland Security, which is completely
Here
egregious.
we go. Get your
with everything
papers.
we have
Get your
going
papers
on in
and
the
leave.
world. And these brave men and women
Get
who
your
serve
papers
DHS
and get the hell
deserve
out.
to get their paychecks. President wants to see that happen, and he wants Congress to come back to get it done.
Yo, how goated am I on Save Act No? How goated am I on Save Act No? Everybody's telling me Save Act Y. I know the White House. Let's go. Oh my gosh. Come on. That freaking Save Act No. Let's go. We held this the whole way too. I did not sell any Save Act on it. 1,300 Save Act No at 34 cents. Let's go. Okay, I feel good about that. Let's go. All right, but I still didn't do that well because of the stupid China no. But oh my gosh, dude. The only reason I feel good about my Save Act No was literally everyone I talked to was telling me to go save Act Y. Like, you know what I mean? I would tell people, I was telling all these people, because I was talking to a bunch of other sharps on this, what they were like doing for this. And I felt so good about Save Act. No, that was my biggest play that I really liked. And like, I was like, you know what? I'm trusting my own intuition here on the messaging. Oh, you guys can't hear it? No audio? But I was just saying, I'm like, I'm trusting myself on my intuition with taking Save Act No. But I had a ton of other lottos that didn't hit. Like I had Agitator Y, I think was plus EV getting this at 17 cents, honestly. Like the fact there was an Antifa question makes me feel like it was still a good buy. Ukraine Y, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to torch money on Ukraine Y every time. I just feel like there's an angle for her to bring Ukraine Y. I don't think it makes sense to be sub 30 cents here. But we lost some there. And then China No was unfortunate. But I don't know. She gets a random question on China. Like it was just such a weird. I don't even know what the question was. It was like, are you gonna ask with like reporters or something? But all right, I will take any wins on Caro and always feel good. A win is a win on Caro. I probably should have just had my Save Act No and just freaking not done anything else. This was like a good win here. I know the White House app was crazy. Not talking about it. I'm actually happy because I sold my Ys pre-speech. Technically, I could have sold them at like 85, but I sold them at like 65. I sold them out for cost. Look, a win is a win on Caro. Caro is so hard to predict, man. She's like, a lot of people think that Trump is the most volatile character. I would say like Caroline is the most volatile character. I mean, it's all about like what is the messaging that Republicans want to do in a given time. I mean, you will have like an Iran war raging, you will have the government shut down, and then they'll come out and her remarks will be 20 minutes talking about the border and Biden's border crisis. Like, you know what I mean? It's like she's just really hard to predict. So any win is always a win on Caro. So we'll take it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back. Take care.